Hello and welcome to another Scotty's Tech Talk. Today we're talking all about our amazing tender and why it also doubles as our life raft. We have an Oceancraft 2900. It's 2.9 meters long and it's actually 1.9 meters beamy. So that is incredibly stable for a tender, can definitely handle the rough stuff. Oceancraft aluminium tenders are positively buoyant because they're made of aluminium, so they're very robust, but they're also aluminium that's empty in the middle. They've got air pockets, which means that they will float. So even if a wave crashed into the inside the space where we're sitting, it won't sink. It's an aluminium tender, but it's sort of built like a polyester rib. We love it for that purpose. Very, very robust. We've had to tie up. If you've been cruising for any period of time, you know that where you leave your tender, whether it's on a rocky shoreline or whether it's on a dock that gets slammed with waves going past it, your tender tends to cop a fair bit of abuse. Having a great big aluminium thick plate on the side or the whole tender really protects our tender from the damages that may otherwise have torn a different kind of tender depending upon what that was made out of. Okay, so I guess the controversial side of this tech talk is that our tender also doubles as a life raft. Now, I know a lot of people will be saying, no, to cross oceans, and in fact anywhere really, you need a life raft to be compliant with local regulations, etc. Now, this is completely unique. In the configuration that we have, Oceancraft have designed this to actually double as a life raft. Now, AMSA have certified this kind of tender as a legal life raft. So it is it's something that can and will double as a life raft. Now, we also know, because we're on a catamaran, that we will be positively buoyant if we struck a reef or hit a whale or got holed and the boat filled up with water. Even if we capsized or turned turtle, the boat won't sink. It might be very uncomfortable to try and stay around, but it won't sink. So for these reasons, I think a life raft is less important. That said, if you were capsized in the middle of the Atlantic and there was, a long way away from rescue, then it could be very, very uncomfortable trying to live in an upturned hull, or just trying to live in our tender for any period of time. So I would definitely be cautious about it, but I think, in today's day and age, rescue should be less than 24 hours. I spoke with one of the distributors in Australia for Viking life rafts, who basically said never buy anything that's more than 24 hours worth of rations, etc., because you're always going to be rescued within that 24-hour period. If you've got an EPIRB that gets set off, then you're fine. So one of the things that we love about our Oceancraft tender is that she is so stable in a rough sea, and that could just be the wake of another boat going past. So definitely love the fact that she's very stable in the water, and easy on us to travel distances. Now, tender's actually rated for 30 horsepower. We only have a 25 horsepower, and there's a specific reason for that. Our motor, our outboard motor on the tender, is a Yamaha 25, which is exactly the same power head as the 25s that we have on our port and starboard side engines. Now, this theoretically means that if one of them, their carburetor broke, or there was a part of one of them, we could technically cannibalize the tender, or vice versa. If for one of the other power heads. So we've got the ability to do that, which may in some circumstances get us out of some trouble.
Underneath Darkside is where things get really interesting. At rest, the deep V centre hull and the two aluminium sponsors effectively give her a trimaran-style footprint, which is why she feels so incredibly stable when we're climbing in and out. As we accelerate, these planing strikes underneath start generating a lift. The boat rises and the big outer sponsors progressively come out of the water, and Darkside's transition into that deep V centre hull. The idea is to reduce the amount of hull drag through the water, which means less resistance, to help her get up on the plane quickly. And when we turn, those big outer sponsors act almost like outriggers, adding stability. So it's quite a clever design, stable like a trimaran at rest, but once we're moving, she behaves more like a deep planing boat.
Planing is an interesting concept on the ocean craft. If there's one person on board, it's what I call insanity mode. She will just go up like this and fly along in an anchorage or in the sea, wherever you are. So one person missions amazingly fast with a 25 horsepower on the back. Two people, we can get up on the plane no problem. Two people, she can be very quick. We have a good range on her so that if there is a bit of an expedition we need to do, we've got no problem doing that in this tender. If we have three people on board, then it kind of depends on how big the third person is. We've definitely had my son, who's a big, tall, strapping lad, and if the wind was against us, there's no way we were going to get that on the plane. Otherwise, so we just had to bob along at a low speed. If the wind and waves are against you, no planing. If they're for you, then you can get up on the plane. So that's with three people. If we have four people on board, there's no way that we're going to get it on the plane. And that might be the case too if we had heavy dive equipment on board. We know that we're set up to do that. We just have only done that once. So I can't really comment. But getting on the plane with a heavy load on board isn't going to work. Now, one of the things that I didn't like about this tender is that it looks heavy. We're a catamaran, and we're not a performance catamaran, but we're a cruising performance catamaran. So keeping it light is paramount for performance on a catamaran. Having this big, heavy structure that supports our tender kind of meant, to me, felt wrong. But then you look at the stats on them and compare that to other tenders that are on the market. Now, she's only 79 kilograms dry weight, which is quite incredible if you think about it. Now, we add the 25 horsepower, which weighs around about 65 kilograms. Even with the anchor and the fuel and other bits and pieces, she's still only under 200 kilograms. I priced a Williams jet-engined two-person tender a couple of months ago, and it was 300 kilograms dry. So she really looks like a heavy tender, but she really isn't. Now, in terms of beaching our big aluminium tender, we have beach wheels on them. They will work very, very well if you're on a relatively flat concrete surface. Otherwise, they're useless. We never ever try to beach our dinghy. We always try to anchor it off the beach because it's just too heavy. If the tide drops, you're never going to get that off the beach. Definitely not like a lightweight Hyperlon tender that you can drag up the beach. She's heavy and she's going to stay in the water is the best way to deal with we've found with the tender. One of the things that we love about our tender is the orange Fender Skirt that goes around her. One of the things we don't like about our tender is that she does tend to take chunks out of fiberglass. She would do the same for wood as well. So we're always very cautious when we're approaching another boat. The big foam skirt that's on her gives us two advantages. One is that we can see her from a long distance away. So if we ever did lose her and she was drifting, it should be relatively easy to spot. That's really important because the life raft issue that you can see her from a long way away. But also that skirt protects both the dinghy from rough rocks and walls and other things that might abrade it. It also helps protect the boat as well, our boat as well. That said, she does sometimes like to sneak in and take a few chunks out of the less forgiving fiberglass. So that's some repairs over winter. Okay, so we love the inbuilt foredeck area of our tender. And it's because it gives you somewhere to stand when you're coming on board, especially from a jetty. It's nice and high, but also gives us some lots of area that we can use to store the various things and keep the floor of the tender relatively clear. We do have the fuel tank that sits at the back underneath the motor. Would love to have that sort of in the front here somehow, but I really think it needs to be at the back here. And then we have spare fuel, a lovely Manson anchor. We have a sand anchor as well that's often used for stern tying, which is really good. And then we also have a lot of safety gear because very important. We've got life jackets. We've got this little extra bail bucket here that has ropes that you can throw people to and whistles for attracting attention. So we're trying to be as safety as conscious, especially if we needed to use this as a life raft. We've got enough things in here that will make that, especially if we're doing an ocean passage, make that a feasible life raft. We used to have a battery in here, but we no longer do. We've got sponges, we've got oars, and we also have a great little port and starboard light that we can use for nighttime as well. So there's quite a large volume of space under here. Try not to fill it up too much, but it definitely comes in handy to keep all of this otherwise would have been cluttered out of the floor of the dinghy. So one of the tricky things with any tender is getting in and out of the tender from the water. And if you're going snorkeling or diving, then it's important that you be able to, or you're just going to retrieve someone, important that you can get in the tender. So what we have rigged up is this rope system. We have a very heavy duty rope with knots in it that you can haul yourself up, and we throw this off the side, and then Sandy likes to put her foot in this little loop. I just kind of haul myself up, and you can pull yourself up onto the dinghy, the tender with it. Now I do remember going off by myself once to a beach, and I didn't have this rope system set up, and I had to get in the boat from the water. It was quite a troubling time. We didn't even have these seat cushions on it, so I was burning myself a lot trying to get on the boat, but did manage to do it. It makes it a lot easier when you've got this little recovery rope. Now, I know there's lots of different ladders and other things that are on the system. The problem with those, if you haven't tried them, is that you tend to, instead of the force going up and into the boat, the force tends to go underneath the boat. So that's why we like using our arms to try and pull yourself up. And then as soon as you get to these very wide inflatable sides, you can just sort of scoot yourself over. Sometimes it's not the most elegant thing, but it just definitely works for us. And because the boat is so wide, there tend to be plenty of room for people to get on board. One of the things that we absolutely found necessary was to install these seat covers that we relatively quickly after we got the boat. It didn't come with the seat covers, and it's quite hard to sit on just the aluminium frame. Very hot as well when it gets in the sun. So even though we've got the fishing, if we ever use this as a fishing craft, we've got the measurement on the side there. But yeah, we find that this cushioning is absolutely important when you're bashing over waves or going any sort of distances. It just adds comfort. Look, thanks so much for watching Scotty's Tech Talk. If you've got any questions about tenders and what works for us and the aluminium or ocean craft, please don't hesitate to ask them in the comments. And if you could like, and if you haven't subscribed, really, really appreciate it if you would. I've got lots of tech talks coming up in the future and talks about our electronic system, our batteries, our charging, our hot water, all that sort of stuff. So stay tuned. Hopefully I got some really good info for you. So thank you once again for sticking through another Scotty's Tech Talk. Bye-bye.